Let's dive into one of the most incredible things your brain does, storing memories. I mean, it's like this biological supercomputer, right? But how does its filing system actually work? Let's take a closer look.
Okay, so let's start with a real head scratcher. I bet you can sing along to some pop song from when you were a kid, word for word. But what did you have for breakfast this morning? Seriously, it's a blank for a lot of us. That's not a glitch, by the way. It's actually a huge clue about how your brain decides what's worth keeping.
So, to figure this out, we've got to look inside what I like to call the brain's filing cabinet. And, it's not just one big messy box. It's actually a pretty organized system with 3 different storage areas, and each one has a very specific job to do.
Okay, this table breaks it down perfectly. Just think of the whole process like a funnel. At the very top, you've got sensory memory. It's just scooping up everything, sights, sounds, smells, but only for a split second. Then, if you actually pay attention to something, it drops down into short-term memory. But that's also pretty fleeting. We're talking seconds, maybe a minute. And then finally, the really important stuff, that gets locked away into long-term memory. That's the vast archive that can stick with you for your entire life.
So, that short-term memory we were just talking about, its capacity is, well, it's shockingly small. There's this famous magic number, which is 7 plus or minus 2. So for most of us, that means we can only juggle about 5 to 9 pieces of info in our head at any one time. It's kind of wild, right? And this is exactly why we do things like chunking a phone number into smaller groups. It's a clever little workaround for our brain's natural limits. Okay, so if our active memory is that small, how does anything ever stick around for good? I mean, how do we get something from that tiny temporary folder into the massive permanent archive? Well, it all boils down to this really cool process called consolidation. And the secret sauce here is how we process the information. You know, when you just repeat a phone number over and over in your head, that's called maintenance rehearsal. It's pretty shallow processing, and honestly, it doesn't work very well. But what if you notice that phone number has your birthday in it? Now you're doing something called elaborative rehearsal. That's deep processing. You're connecting that new info to something you already know. And that's the key. To really remember something, you've got to make it meaningful to you. All right, so we've got the basics down for how memory works for most people. But now let's get into the really wild stuff, the extremes. The human brain can pull off some absolutely incredible feats of memory, but it can also experience some really profound states of loss. So get this, there are people with something called highly superior autobiographical memory, or HSAM for short. These are individuals who can remember, well, pretty much every single day of their lives, in crazy detail. You could ask them what they were doing on, say, April 15th, 20 years ago, and they could tell you. It's super rare, but it gives us this incredible peek into what the human brain is truly capable of. But of course, there is another extreme. What happens when this incredible filing system starts to break down? When we look at conditions like amnesia and Alzheimer's, we see just how fundamental our memory is, not just to our experience, but to who we are. This diagram does a fantastic job of showing the 2 main types of amnesia. Just think of that now line as the moment someone has a brain injury. See the arrow pointing left to the past? That's retrograde amnesia, losing memories you already had. And the arrow pointing right into the future? That's anterograde amnesia, the inability to make new memories. So with retrograde amnesia, your own past basically becomes unreachable. It's like your hard drive is corrupted. The files might technically still be there somewhere, but you've lost the ability to open them. Anterograde amnesia, though, you could argue it's even more devastating. This is when you can't save any new files. It basically traps a person in the present moment because every new experience, every new conversation just vanishes within minutes. And that brings us to Alzheimer's disease, which is the #1 cause of dementia. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disorder, which is a clinical way of saying it gets worse over time. It doesn't just affect memory, it also hits thinking and behavior. And as you can see, it's incredibly common, accounting for a massive 60 to 80% of all dementia cases. It's a condition that tragically highlights just how much our sense of self is built on a biological foundation. And all of this leaves us with a really deep, powerful question to think about. You know, our memories are the threads that weave together the story of our lives, our relationships, our entire sense of self. So digging into how they're stored isn't just a fun science lesson.
It's really a journey into the heart of what it means to be us.